I've already decided. My mother, Ruth Calder, said it without even looking at me. Her voice was thin, but sharp enough to cut straight through me. The hospital room felt too small, like the walls were leaning in just to hear me break. The lawyer stood at the foot of the bed. My sister, Iris Calder, stood beside him, arms folded, calm like she had been waiting for this moment her whole life. Everything, my mother continued, goes to Iris. The house, the accounts, the business. She's the responsible one. I felt something crack inside me. I've been here every week, I said. My voice sounded strange, like it didn't belong to me. I've been paying your bills. You've been pretending, she snapped, finally turning her cold eyes toward me. Pretending to be reliable. Pretending to be enough. The words hit harder than anything. Iris didn't even defend me. She just watched. Quiet. Controlled. Like she agreed. I raised you better than this, Elias, my mother said. But you chose to be careless. Weak. I won't reward that. I couldn't breathe. All those nights. All the sacrifices. They meant nothing. Iris understands responsibility, she added, softer now. Almost proud. She always has. I looked at my sister, waiting for something. Anything, but she just gave me a small, tight smile. Like she had already won. The lawyer cleared his throat. We'll proceed with finalizing the will. And just like that, I was erased. Not slowly. Not quietly. Completely. I turned and walked out before I could fall apart in front of them. But as I reached the hallway, I heard something behind me. A nurse. Soft voice. Nervous. Doctor, those records from years ago, are you sure they should stay sealed? I froze. Because my mother's voice answered. Some truths, she said coldly, are better buried. And suddenly, this didn't feel like favoritism anymore. It felt like a secret. I should have kept walking. I should have let it go, like I always did. But something about the way my mother said it, buried, stuck in my chest like a splinter I couldn't ignore. So I stayed. Hidden just around the corner, close enough to hear but far enough not to be seen. The nurse sounded uneasy. But if anyone requests access, legally, we can't. No one will, my mother cut in. Because no one knows what to look for. Her voice was calm again. Controlled. Like she had practiced this. I pressed my back against the wall, heart pounding so hard it felt loud. What records? What truth? Especially not him, she added. Him. Me. I swallowed hard. Mrs. Calder. The nurse hesitated. Are you sure you're doing the right thing? There was a long pause. And then my mother laughed. Soft. Cold. Empty. The right thing, she said. I've spent my entire life fixing mistakes. This is just another one. Mistake. The word hit me like a punch. Before I could process it, footsteps moved toward the door. I forced myself to leave before I was caught. Out into the cold air. Away from that room. But the damage was already done. Because now I couldn't unhear it. I wasn't just unwanted. I was something she had fixed. That night, I sat in my car for hours, replaying every memory I had with her. Every moment where something felt off. The way she never hugged me first. The way she watched me like she was checking for something. The way she always compared me to Iris. And suddenly, it all felt intentional. Like she wasn't just disappointed in me. Like she was hiding something about me. Something I was never meant to find. But now I needed to know. Even if it destroyed whatever was left of my family. Because if there were records, I was going to open them. No matter what it cost. I didn't go home. I went straight back. Not to see my mother. To see Iris. If anyone knew what those records were, it was her. She was standing outside the hospital entrance when I found her, scrolling through her phone like nothing had happened. Like she hadn't just watched me get cut out of our mother's life. Iris. She looked up slowly. Smiled. Too calm. Too prepared. You left quickly, she said. That's new. What did she mean? I asked. Her smile didn't fade. I don't know what you're talking about. Don't lie to me. She tilted her head, studying me like I was something small. Something predictable. You always think there's something bigger, don't you? She said. Some hidden reason for why things don't go your way. My hands clenched. I heard her, I said. About the records. That made her pause. Just for a second. But I saw it. And that was enough. Iris. I stepped closer, lowering my voice. What did she mean? Her expression changed. Not fear. Something colder. Something sharper. You should let this go, she said quietly. No. For once in your life, she continued, stop digging into things that don't concern you. Don't concern me? It's my life, I said. She let out a small laugh. No, she said. It really isn't. The words hung between us. Wrong. Deeply wrong. Before I could react, she stepped closer, her voice dropping to almost a whisper. If I were you, she said, I'd be careful what doors I try to open. My stomach dropped. Why? She smiled again. That same calm, controlled smile. Because some truths don't just hurt, she said. They erase you. Then she walked past me, leaving me standing there, alone, with one terrifying thought growing louder in my head. What if she wasn't warning me? What if she was threatening me? The next morning, I did something I never thought I would do. I went to the hospital records department. My hands were shaking when I filled out the request form. Patient name? The clerk asked. Ruth Calder, I said. And your relation? Son. The word felt strange now. Heavy. Uncertain. The clerk typed something, then frowned at the screen. I'm sorry, she said. These records are restricted. Of course they were. By who? By the patient herself. My mother. Of course. I forced a steady breath. There has to be a way. The clerk hesitated, then leaned closer. There is one way, she said quietly. If there's a legal reason. Something that requires disclosure. Legal. My mind raced. The will. The inheritance. If there's a dispute, she continued, a court can order access. A dispute. I stared at the counter, at the reflection of myself in the glass. A son who had just been disowned. A son who had nothing left to lose. Thank you, I said, and walked out. For the first time, I wasn't just hurt. I was focused. Because if the truth was locked behind legal doors, then I would open them. I didn't care how ugly it got. I didn't care who it exposed. Because my mother had already made her choice. Now I was going to make mine. I pulled out my phone and called a lawyer. But as it rang, one thought kept repeating in my head. What if the reason she hid those records wasn't about protecting herself? What if it was about hiding me? The lawyer's name was Gareth Voss. He didn't waste time with sympathy. Disinherited children challenge wills all the time, he said, flipping through my notes. Most lose. I'm not most. He raised an eyebrow. Then give me a reason this case is different. I leaned forward. There are sealed hospital records, I said. My mother doesn't want them opened. That got his attention. Medical records? He asked. Yes. And you think they affect the will? I think they explain it. He studied me for a long moment. Then nodded slowly. All right, he said. We file a challenge. Force disclosure. Just like that. It was real. But as we went over the details, something else started to bother me. Something small. Something I hadn't questioned before. Wait, Gareth said suddenly, looking at a document. Your birth certificate. What about it? He turned it toward me. Why was it amended 2 years after your birth? My stomach dropped. I don't know. He tapped the paper. There's a correction note here. Original entry replaced. Replaced? With what? I asked. That's the problem, he said. It doesn't say. The room felt colder. My entire life, rewritten? Can we access the original? I asked. Gareth shook his head. Not easily. Of course not. Nothing about this was easy. But now I had something new. Something bigger than the will. Something that made everything feel unstable. Because if my birth record had been changed, then what else had been changed? And more importantly, why? That night, I called my mother. I didn't expect her to answer, but she did. What do you want? She said flatly. Why was my birth certificate changed? Silence. Then, who told you that? Her voice wasn't angry. It was sharp, alert, like I had just stepped somewhere I wasn't supposed to. I found it, I said. What was changed? You're imagining things, she replied. Iris knew about the records, I said quickly. She warned me. Another pause. Longer this time. You need to stop, my mother said. No. Yes, she snapped. Before you uncover something you don't understand. Then explain it. You wouldn't survive it. The words froze me. What does that mean? But she didn't answer. Instead, her voice softened. And that scared me more. You were never meant to question this, she said quietly. I gave you a life. That should have been enough. Gave me a life. Not raised me. Not loved me. Gave me. Like I was something handed over. Mom. Don't call me that. The line went dead. And just like that, everything I thought I knew about my life felt wrong. Because that wasn't anger. That was fear. And my mother was terrified of me finding the truth. I needed answers from someone who wasn't hiding. So I went to the only person who had known us before everything got complicated. Mrs. Holden. Our old neighbor. She opened the door slowly, her eyes lighting up when she saw me. Elias, she said. It's been years. I forced a smile. I need to ask you something. Her expression shifted immediately. Serious. Concerned. Come in. We sat in her small living room, surrounded by old photos and quiet memories. I need to know about when I was born, I said. Her hands froze. Just for a second. But I saw it. Why? She asked. Because something doesn't add up. She looked down. Then sighed. I always wondered if this day would come. My heart started racing. What do you mean? She hesitated, like she was choosing between truth and silence. Your mother, she said slowly, was very sick back then. Sick how? She was in the hospital for months. That didn't make sense. She told me she had a normal delivery. Mrs. Holden shook her head. No, she said. That's not what happened. My chest tightened. Then what did? She looked at me. Really looked at me. With something close to pity. There were complications, she said. And when she came home. Yes. She swallowed. You weren't the baby she left with. Everything inside me stopped. Because that wasn't confusion. That was something else. Something much worse. Something impossible. Then who was I? I whispered. But she didn't answer. She just shook her head. Like she had already said too much. I went back to the hospital the next day. This time, I didn't ask. I searched. Public records. Old archives. Anything I could access without permission. And that's when I found it. A reference number. A file tied to my mother's hospital stay. The year I was born. My hands shook as I wrote it down. This was it. Proof. Or answers. Or both. But when I gave the number to the clerk, her face changed. This file, she said slowly. It doesn't exist. What do you mean it doesn't exist? It's been removed from the system. Removed. Not lost. Not misplaced. Removed. By who? I demanded. She shook her head. There's no record of that either. Of course there wasn't. Because someone had made sure of it. Someone who didn't want this found. Someone powerful enough to erase an entire medical file. My stomach twisted. Because there was only one person who had both the motive and the opportunity. My mother. But why go this far? Why erase everything? Unless what was in that file wasn't just a mistake. Unless it was something much bigger. Something illegal. Something that could destroy everything she had built. I stepped back from the counter, my mind racing. Because now I wasn't just dealing with family secrets. I was dealing with something that had been deliberately hidden. And if it had been erased this carefully, then whatever the truth was, it was dangerous. I found Iris again that night. This time, she wasn't calm. She looked shaken. You went to the hospital, she said the moment she saw me. It wasn't a question. You knew the file was gone, I said. She didn't deny it. Elias, stop. No. You don't understand what you're doing. Then explain it. She ran a hand through her hair, pacing. For the first time in my life, I saw her lose control. This isn't about the will, she said. It never was. I know. Then why are you still pushing? Because I deserve the truth. She stopped, turned to face me, and for a second, I saw fear. Real fear. You weren't supposed to exist like this, she said quietly. My heart dropped. Like what? She shook her head. I can't say it. Why? Because if I do, her voice cracked, everything falls apart. Good. Then let it. She stared at me. Long. Hard. Like she was seeing me for the first time. You think you're the victim, she said. But you're not. Then what am I? She swallowed. And whispered. You're the reason she had to lie. The words hit like a shockwave. Because that didn't make me a mistake. That made me something else. Something worse. Something that forced her to change reality itself. But before I could ask more, Iris stepped back. And said the one thing I wasn't ready to hear. If the record's open, you might wish you were never born. Gareth moved fast. Within days, the challenge was filed. And just like the clerk said, it worked. A court order. Limited access. Pending review. But it was enough. We're getting those records, Gareth said. For the first time. I believed him. But my mother found out. Of course she did. And she didn't call. She came. Unannounced. Standing outside my apartment like a ghost I couldn't escape. You've gone too far, she said. No, I replied. You did. Her eyes were cold. Empty. You don't know what you're asking for. Then tell me. I can't. Or you won't. She stepped closer. Her voice dropped. If those records are opened, she said, you lose everything. I laughed bitterly. I already have. She shook her head. No, she said. You haven't even begun to. That should have scared me. But it didn't. Because at this point, fear was all I had left. Good, I said. Then let it happen. For a moment. She just looked at me. And I swear, there was something close to regret in her eyes. But it vanished just as quickly. Don't say I didn't try to stop you, she said. Then she turned. And walked away. Like she was already preparing for what came next. And that's when I realized something terrifying. She wasn't trying to protect herself anymore. She was preparing for damage control, which meant the truth wasn't just personal. It was explosive. The records didn't come all at once. Just fragments, partial disclosures. But it was enough to start building something. A timeline. Names. One name stood out immediately. Dr. Simon Verne. Primary physician during my mother's hospitalization. I searched for him, expecting nothing. But I found something. A news article. Old. Buried. About a medical investigation. Unethical practices. Patient record manipulation. My stomach dropped. Because this wasn't just a family secret. This was fraud. Medical fraud. And my mother was connected to it. I called the number listed in the article. Didn't expect an answer. But someone picked up. A woman. Cautious. Hello. I'm looking for Dr. Verne. Silence. Then. Who is this? My name is Elias Calder. Another pause. Longer this time. Then her voice changed. Sharp. Concerned. You need to stop looking into this. Too late. I think he treated my mother, I said. A breath. Shaky. He treated a lot of people, she replied. And not all of them survived what he did. My blood ran cold. What did he do? You don't want to know. I do. No, she said firmly. You really don't. But I did. Because now this wasn't just about who I was. It was about what had been done. And what had been covered up. But before I could ask another question, she said something that made everything worse. If your mother was involved. Yes. Then whatever you think happened. She paused. It's worse. The next document changed everything. Not a full record. Just a form. Partially redacted. But one line was clear. Patient. Infant male. Identity reassignment pending. My hands went numb. Identity reassignment? For a baby? That wasn't normal. That wasn't legal. That was Elias. Gareth's voice snapped me back. You need to see this, I said. He read it. His expression darkened immediately. This is serious, he said. What does it mean? He looked at me. Carefully. It means, he said slowly, there was a change in identity after birth. I know that part. No, he said. I mean a complete reassignment. Legal identity. Medical identity. My chest tightened. You mean? Yes, he said. It suggests you may not be the child listed on your own birth record. The room spun. Because that wasn't just a secret. That was an erasure. A replacement. Then who am I? I whispered. Gareth didn't answer. Because he didn't know. But someone did. My mother. Iris. And maybe Dr. Verne. But one thing was clear now. This wasn't just about favoritism. This wasn't just about lies. This was about identity. And someone had rewritten mine from the very beginning. The final piece came faster than expected. Too fast. Like someone had made a mistake. Or panicked. A partial unsealing. Enough to expose something critical. A note. Handwritten. Signed by Dr. Verne. Subject be transferred. Subject a retained per maternal request. I stared at it. Over and over. Subject A. Subject B. Transferred. Retained. This wasn't a mistake. This was a swap. A controlled, deliberate exchange. Elias, Gareth said carefully. I think. I know, I cut in. Because suddenly, everything made sense. The coldness. The distance. The way my mother looked at me like I didn't belong. Because maybe I didn't. What if, I said slowly, I was never meant to be in that family? Gareth didn't answer. Because he didn't need to. The evidence was already speaking. But one question remained. The most important one. If I wasn't her child, then where was her real one? And why did she choose to keep me instead? But before I could process it, my phone rang. Unknown number. I answered. A voice. Low. Urgent. You need to stop, it said. Who is this? A pause. Then. The one who knows what happened to the other child. My heart stopped. Where are they? I demanded. Silence. Then one final sentence. If you keep digging. A breath. They won't stay missing. The line went dead. And just like that. This wasn't just about the past anymore. This was about someone who was still out there. Someone who had been taken, replaced, erased, and now might be coming back. I didn't sleep. I couldn't. That voice stayed in my head all night. They won't stay missing. By morning, I had one goal. Find the other child. I went back to Gareth's office, placing the note in front of him again. Subject B was transferred, I said. That means there's a record somewhere. Gareth nodded slowly. If the system didn't erase it completely. Then we find what they missed. Hours passed digging through fragments, cross-referencing dates, partial files, anything tied to Dr. Verne. And then, we found something. A discharge summary. Different name. Different family. Same date. Same hospital. My hands shook as I read it. Infant male released to foster care due to administrative reassignment. Administrative. Like it was paperwork. Not a human life. Name. I asked. Gareth hesitated. Then turned the screen. Jonah Hale. The name hit me like a shockwave. Because suddenly, this wasn't abstract anymore. This was a person. A life that should have been mine. Or maybe, the life I took. Where is he now? I asked. Gareth shook his head. No clear record. He disappears after age 5. Disappears. Just like that. I leaned back, my chest tightening. Because now I understood something horrifying. This wasn't just a swap. This was a cover-up. And if Jonah disappeared, then someone made sure he stayed gone. My phone buzzed again. Same unknown number. I answered immediately. You found his name, the voice said. Cold. Certain. Where is he? I demanded. A pause. Then. Closer than you think. The line went dead. And for the first time, I realized something worse than the truth. I might have already met him. I went straight to Iris. No warning. No hesitation. She opened the door, already tense, like she expected me. Jonah Hale, I said. Her face went pale instantly. That was all I needed. You knew, I said. She stepped back, shaking her head. You shouldn't have found that. But I did. She turned away, pacing. Iris, I pressed. Where is he? I don't know, she snapped. Lie. I don't, she shouted. I just know he exists. Silence filled the room. Heavy. Unstable. Then why does his name scare you? I asked. She stopped moving. Slowly turned to face me. Because, she said quietly, he's the reason our mother became who she is. That made my stomach twist. What does that mean? Iris swallowed hard. Mom didn't lose you, she said. She lost him. The words felt wrong. Twisted. She chose you, Iris continued, voice shaking. Because you were healthier. Healthier. My chest tightened. She made a deal, Iris said. With Dr. Verne. A deal. Not a mistake. Not an accident. A choice. What kind of deal? I whispered. Iris closed her eyes. The kind that trades one life for another. The room felt like it was collapsing. She knew something was wrong with him, Iris said. Something serious. My heart pounded. And me. She looked at me. With something close to guilt. You were perfect, she said. Perfect. Chosen. Not loved. Chosen. And suddenly everything made sense. But one question remained. If he was sick, I said slowly, then why hide him? Iris hesitated. Too long. Iris, I said. Her voice dropped to a whisper. Because he didn't stay sick. He didn't stay sick. Those words followed me like a shadow. If Jonah had recovered, then why was he erased? I went back to the files, digging deeper, looking for anything about his condition. And then I found it. A diagnosis. Rare. Severe. Genetic. Something that would have required constant care. Expensive care. My mother couldn't afford that back then. But then. A second note. Weeks later. Condition improving. Rapidly. Unexplainably. I stared at the screen. Because that didn't make sense. Illnesses like that don't just disappear. Unless. They treated him, Gareth said quietly behind me. I turned. With what? He hesitated. Experimental procedures, he said. The kind Vern was investigated for. My stomach dropped. So he wasn't just a patient. No, Gareth said. He was a test subject. The words felt heavy, dark, wrong. And my mother knew? Gareth didn't answer. Because he didn't need to. She didn't just know. She allowed it. Traded him. For me. But then why erase him after he got better? That's when I saw the final note. Redacted. Almost completely. Except for one line. Subject B demonstrates abnormal cognitive development. Abnormal. Not cured. Changed. My chest tightened. What does that mean? I whispered. Gareth's voice was low. It means whatever they did to him. He paused. It didn't just heal him. Before I could respond, my phone buzzed again. Same number. I answered. He's not what you think, the voice said. Where is he? A pause. Then. He's been watching you. The line went dead. And suddenly, every face I had ever trusted felt unfamiliar. I started noticing things. Small things. People watching too long. Strangers who seemed familiar. It was paranoia. Or maybe not. Because if Jonah was out there, and he knew about me, then what did he want? That's when I remembered something. A man I had seen twice. Once outside the hospital. Once near my apartment. Same face. Same stare. Too calm. Too focused. I went through old messages, security footage from my building. And there he was. Clear as day. Watching. Waiting. My chest tightened. Because this wasn't coincidence. This was surveillance. I showed Gareth. He could be nothing, Gareth said carefully. No, I replied. He's something. We ran the image. Facial recognition. Limited results. But one hit came back. Partial. A name. Not confirmed. But close enough. Jonah. My heart stopped. Because if that was him, then he wasn't missing. He was here. Close. Watching me. Learning me. Becoming me. The thought sent a chill through my entire body. Because if he had been erased, then what was he building now? A life. Or revenge. That night, I heard footsteps outside my apartment. Slow. Deliberate. I held my breath. Listening. Then. A knock. Soft. Controlled. Not aggressive. Not afraid. Like whoever was there already knew me. I stepped toward the door. Heart racing. and a voice came through. Low. Familiar. You took my place, it said. And everything inside me froze. Because I knew. This was him. I opened the door. Slowly. Carefully. And there he was. Jonah. Or at least, the man who carried that name. He looked normal. Too normal. Calm eyes. Steady posture. But something about him felt off. Like he was studying me even as we stood there. You look exactly like I imagined, he said. My throat went dry. You've been watching me. Yes. No denial. No hesitation. Why? He tilted his head slightly. Wouldn't you? He asked. If someone lived the life meant for you? The words hit hard. But I held my ground. I didn't choose this. I know, he said. She did. Our mother. The silence between us was heavy. You're not here to hurt me, I said. He smiled faintly. No, he said. I'm here to understand you. That was somehow worse. Understand what? Why she kept you. My chest tightened. Because I didn't know that either. And once you understand? I asked. His eyes darkened slightly. Then I decide what to do with that answer. A quiet threat. Not loud. Not emotional. Calculated. You could expose everything, I said. End this. He stepped closer. I could, he said. But that wouldn't fix what was taken. No, I said. But it would give you justice. He studied me for a long moment. Then shook his head. Justice isn't what I want. That scared me. Then what do you want? He smiled again. Colder this time. I want her to lose everything, he said. A pause. And I want to see which one of us she chooses now. The words hit like a knife. Because this wasn't over. It was just beginning. Jonah didn't attack. He planned. That was worse. Days passed, and things started shifting. Quietly. Carefully. Anonymous reports filed against my mother's business. Financial audits triggered. Old connections resurfacing. Every piece of her life being pulled apart. And I knew who was behind it. You're helping him, Gareth said. I'm helping the truth, I replied. But even as I said it, I wasn't sure anymore. Because Jonah wasn't just exposing her. He was dismantling her. Piece by piece. Like he wanted her to feel everything. Every loss. Every fear. Just like he did. And maybe she deserved that. But something felt off. Because this wasn't just revenge. This was control. And Jonah was too calm. Too precise. Like he had been waiting his whole life for this. Then the final move came. A legal notice. Public. Official. Jonah Hale versus Ruth Calder. Fraud. Identity manipulation. Medical conspiracy. Everything exposed. And there was no hiding anymore. My mother called me that night. Her voice shaking for the first time in my life. Elias, she said. You have to stop this. I didn't start it. But you can end it. I hesitated. Because part of me still wanted answers. Still wanted her to explain. Why did you do it? I asked. Silence. Then. Because I was afraid, she whispered. That wasn't enough. Afraid of what? Her voice broke. Of losing everything. And suddenly, I understood. But I didn't forgive. The courtroom was packed. Not just lawyers. Media. Observers. People drawn to the story. Because this wasn't just a case anymore. It was a scandal. And my mother sat at the center of it. Smaller than I had ever seen her. Jonah stood across from her. Calm. Controlled. Like he had already won. The evidence was overwhelming. Altered records. Illegal procedures. Identity reassignment. She couldn't deny it. So she didn't. I made a choice, she said, her voice steady now. I chose survival. The room was silent. I was told one child would drain everything I had, she continued. Time, money, life. Her eyes flicked to Jonah. And the other would thrive. Then to me. So I chose. The words landed heavy, cold, final. You chose wrong, Jonah said quietly. For the first time. She looked shaken. Because now she had to face it. Not as a mother, but as someone who made a calculation. And lost. But then. She turned to me. Elias, she said. I did love you. I didn't respond. Because love doesn't erase a life. And it doesn't rewrite one. The judge called for recess. But as we stood, Jonah leaned toward me. This isn't over, he said. My stomach dropped. Why? He smiled faintly. Because she hasn't lost everything yet. And suddenly, I realized something terrifying. He wasn't done. After court, Gareth pulled me aside. There's something else, he said. Of course there was. There's a financial trail, he continued. Payments to Dr. Verne. For the procedure? Yes, he said. But also, after. After what? He hesitated. After Jonah disappeared. My chest tightened. What are you saying? I'm saying, Gareth said slowly, your mother didn't just abandon him. A pause. She paid to keep him hidden. The words hit like a shockwave. Because that changed everything. She didn't just choose me. No, Gareth said. She erased him. Completely. Deliberately. Not out of fear. Out of control. Because as long as he existed, her choice could be questioned. Her lie could collapse. So she buried him. And built a life on top of that. I leaned back, numb. Because now I finally understood her. Not just as a mother. But as someone who would do anything to protect her version of reality. Even destroy a child. Even destroy the truth. But now, that truth was out. And there was no burying it again. The final hearing came fast. Too fast. Like everything was collapsing at once. My mother stood there. And for the first time, she looked defeated. Not cold. Not controlled. Broken. Jonah delivered everything. Every piece of evidence. Every detail. Every lie exposed. There was nowhere left to hide. But then, she did something unexpected. She turned to him. I'm sorry, she said. The room went silent. Jonah didn't react. I was weak, she continued. I was afraid. And I chose wrong. A pause. I should have chosen you. That was it. The truth. Raw. Unfiltered. But Jonah just stared at her. Empty. No, he said quietly. You shouldn't have chosen at all. The words cut deeper than anything. Because he was right. This wasn't about picking a better child. It was about not playing God. But she had. And now she was paying for it. The judge delivered the ruling. Fraud. Criminal charges. Asset seizure. Everything gone. Just like that. She lost it all. And as they took her away, she looked at me one last time. Not with anger. Not with regret. But with something worse. Understanding. Like she finally saw what she had done. Too late. After everything. There was silence. No court. No tension. Just quiet. Jonah and I stood outside. Two lives tied together by something neither of us chose. It's over, I said. He shook his head. No, he said. It's just different now. I didn't argue. Because he was right. Do you hate me? I asked. He looked at me. Long. Carefully. No, he said. You were just part of the lie. That was fair. And you? He asked. Do you hate her? I thought about it. Everything she did. Everything she took. Everything she destroyed. Then I shook my head. No, I said. But I don't forgive her either. He nodded. And for the first time, there was something close to peace between us. Not friendship. Not family. But understanding. And maybe that was enough. The weeks after felt unreal. Like stepping into a life that didn't belong to me anymore. But this time, that wasn't a bad thing. Because I finally understood something. I wasn't defined by what she did, or what she chose, or what she erased. I was still here, still standing, still building something real. Jonah disappeared again, not missing, just gone, living his own life, on his terms, and maybe that was his way of healing. As for me, I stayed, not to rebuild the past, but to create something new. Something honest. Something mine. Because for the first time, I wasn't living someone else's story. If you're listening to this, I need you to understand something. This wasn't just about inheritance, or favoritism, or even identity. It was about control, about fear, about what people are willing to do, to avoid losing everything. My mother didn't start as a monster. She became one decision at a time, one lie at a time, until the truth became something she couldn't face. So she buried it. But here's the thing about buried truths. They don't stay buried. They grow. They wait. And when they come out, they don't just hurt. They destroy everything built on top of them. So if there's one thing I learned, it's this. Don't build your life on lies, not even small ones, because one day, they will demand to be seen, and when they do, you won't get to control how they come out. You'll just have to live with what they take. And trust me, they take everything. So tell the truth, even when it's hard, especially when it's hard, because the truth might break you for a moment, but lies, they break everything. And that's a cost. No one barely survives.